I'm really glad that you're here. So let it be our intention to really use this information that's shared to uplift us, others, help us all on our journeys. And this is what I'm going to cover, what Libra energy is all about. Libra through the 12 houses, so everyone can see like how this energy plays out in your life based on your chart placement, whether you have planets in that sign or not. How to use Libra energy for good, body parts that are ruled by Libra, self-care practices that help to channel Libra energy, herbal medicine that encourages, balance, some planetary transits to pay attention to in 2020, and setting Libra intentions, maybe doing affirmations, just a starting point for those. Intentions are really something that come from the heart, but give you a good starting point. Libra is in all of us. Happy birthday to all the Libra suns. I'm not a Libra sun, but I do have 3 planets in Libra. Let folks send you some birthday love in the chat. This is your birthday month. And Libra is in every single one of us. A lot of the astrology apps, only show the signs that have planets in them, which makes it seem like if you don't have a planet in a particular sign, like you don't have its energy. That's not the case. You have it, I have it, we all have all the signs, all the planets, everything else that's swirling around. So let's get to it. Feel free to take notes. All right, Libra, 7th sign of the zodiac in tropical astrology. In the Northern Hemisphere, it ushers us into autumn. Now, in our journey around the zodiac, we've hit all of the elements: fire, earth, air, water. And this is if you've been with me since the beginning, but even like when I started with Aries, but when you get to Libra, you've been through fire, earth, air, water. We've hit all the modes, which are cardinal, mutable, and fixed. And we've journeyed through like the development of the personality, the lower half of the natal chart. With Libra, ruler of the 7th house, we enter the realms of how one uses the personality to serve the purposes of the soul. Many of the lessons that we find in the upper houses are centered around the discovery of ourselves and our ideals, like who we can become in the context of being around other people. It's easy to be yourself and to know yourself in isolation, right? But how does your authenticity shrink, waver, expand when you're relating to others? Libra is a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs, if you recall from Aries and Cancer workshops, are the modes that are single-minded. They are initiating and active energies that go to the farthest extremes, only to change course when absolutely necessary. You can see this expressed in the symbol that represents Libra, the scales. And I like to visualize a pendulum sometimes, like when the pendulum, the Libran energy moves from extreme to extreme, or like a seesaw with unequal weights. The heaviness is on one end and then on the other. If you knew balance, if Libra knew balance, it wouldn't be born a Libra. For learning balance and learning to not be so extreme in the expressions of its energy is one of the hardest lessons for the Libra dominant person to learn. In learning balance, we're not striving for this like perfect, stagnant place of stillness. We're really aiming for just less extreme swings of that pendulum. Extremes, like to give some example, would be like going through, a season of diligent money management, bills paid, savings, you're stacking. Then in the next season, frivolous spending of everything that you've accumulated. The balanced place would be flow. You're saving some, you're spending some. Some comes in, some goes out. It's not all coming in and you're hoarding it. That's the stagnant flow. And then it's all being released, and that's being released too recklessly. To give another example, this would be like a period of binge eating, then periods of rigid dieting. These are the extremes. When the balanced approach is, for Libra, it's like learning in this life, if food is the issue here, would be to improve its relationship with food so that one eats well for their body type, still enjoys the food that it likes, but not too much restriction, not too much indulgence. Libra is another air sign. Air is the element that represents how we learn about ourselves and how we form ideas and opinions and perceptions and beliefs through our connections with others. All of the air signs are very relationship oriented. Some keywords for the air element are intellect, mind, communication, relationships, ideas. Libra is learning about self through close relationships. And because Libra is another sign that's ruled by Venus, the planet of love, harmony, union, beauty, Libra is more specifically learning about self within the context of those intimate relationships, and how can we establish harmony in relationships. Aries is the sign of I am, and then you travel to its opposite. You're in Libra, the sign of we consciousness. They're polar opposites on the same spectrum of energy, though. And just like, with all the signs and their opposites, you kind of feel that tug of war within these energies within yourself, likely for the whole lifetime. How does one retain self, one's own identity, one's authenticity while in the we? That's a part of the journey for the Libra, and the pendulum swings from extreme to extreme. In a lot of ways, Libra gets to define who it is by being in partnership and dissolving into that partnership, almost joining and becoming one with that other person. The lines between the two or more are really blurred. You're gonna, do what the other person wants to do, living where the other person wants to live, hang out with the other person's friends and community, setting goals that the other person wants to achieve. And it's not that Libra doesn't have its own desires, wishes, ambitions, and longings, because it does, but it gets to further define and refine those within the partnership. And once Libra knows what it wants, knows who it wants to be, and decides to pursue it, the pendulum swings right to the other end of the extreme, to the point of selfishness, self-centeredness, really being unwavering and unmovable, uncompromising. A Libra with a made-up mind is pretty unstoppable. And this unstoppability is wonderfully expressed when Libra is creating art, designing, making over the aesthetics of an environment. Making things more beautiful is a Libra gift. A couple of celebrities with many planets in Libra are Queen Bee, Beyonce. She has 5 planets Libra rising. Alicia Keys, 4 planets in Libra. Tyler Perry also has 5 planets in Libra rising. So you don't have to like the art that's being made, but the urge for Libra to create is really deeply embedded into its nature. And creation is another pathway for Libra to understand itself, that immersion into whatever the canvas is, whatever the medium is, helps, what can sometimes be perceived as an aloof and a detached sign. It helps it to understand human emotion, for it to channel the ideas from the head into the heart. Libra is celebrated for its charm, its likability, and diplomacy. Air signs are all genuinely people in some way. They're friendly, can get along with most people superficially. With Libra's air energy, though, its people-loving energy can turn into people-pleasing. Libra cares a great deal about how it is perceived and desires to be liked by all. So much so that it will bend its will to suit the needs of another. It will compromise itself, put its needs on the back burner, and sometimes like even not be forthright with the truth to avoid conflict, but most importantly, to avoid not being liked. Libra is touted for its fairness and fine judgment. Many judges and attorneys have Libra placements. But I've been pondering this idea around fairness for a while when it comes to Libra. And in my observations, I've seen Libra energy kind of equate fairness with tit for tat, where reciprocity and fairness, they kind of have to show up in the same arena. An example would be like, and a lot of people do this, if one person cooks in the partnership, then the other person does the dishes. And that's assumed to be a fair division of labor, right? And it could be unfair if the person who cooks, or can be perceived as unfair if the person who has to cook also has to clean. This is a very neat little scenario around food, but it's not always how it works out within partnership. Like, fairness shouldn't be tit for tat. Like, I cook, you clean, but what if the person who cooks also cleans just because they're better at it? They enjoy it, or the schedules are more suitable for that type of arrangement. But that other person who doesn't cook or clean, maybe they do the floors, maybe they take out trash, or does something completely different that's unrelated to like domestic duties, like rubs your feet every night. You see what I'm saying? Like, Libra, in order to be truly fair, needs to look at the broader arrangement of the relationship, where things likely are 50-50, But when you zoom in and you kind of get activity specific, it might look like 80-20, but that's not really the holistic view of the partnership. Another thing about fairness, I think that Libra really understands fairness in the context of when it has a system or like a set of rules that everyone is abiding by, and that it can be troublesome for the Libra energy when other people are not subscribing or abiding by the same set of rules. And when it comes to the rules, that's a matter of people's personal integrity. An example would be, and we just like recently had this within our family recently, it was around like someone being a person of their word, someone making a commitment and then backing out of it. And that might be something that is not a part of a person's personal system of integrity, right? They might not care about that. They might be like, I have the freedom to change my mind. But the Libra energy could be looking at that and be like, no, you agreed to do this and you should follow through. But that's a part of the Libra's personal like system of integrity. So I think that there can be conflict there when Libra doesn't understand that people are operating. Yes, we have our macro systems, our institutions, our political systems, and there's kind of sets of rules that we all understand that are not fair. But just when it comes on a personal micro level, I think Libra can have a hard time understanding that everyone is operating under their own personal system of what fairness is. And that can be hard for the Libra to see. When Libra energy is balanced, it tells the truth to itself. It's peace-loving, prefers partnership, appreciates and creates harmony and beauty, is fair with a broad view, diplomatic, loyal, responsible to duties, friendly, outgoing, and balanced. When Libra energy is imbalanced, it's people-pleasing, striving to be all things for all people, indecisive, like dissolves into partnerships and is tit for tat, being dutiful and loyal to people who take advantage, choosing nice over honest, delaying its own creations. Like all of these situations really create win-lose dynamics within the relationships where you're not honoring yourself or allowing people to shine in who they are, you know, what they're good at, be seen for the contributions that they can make. So now we'll look at Libra through the 12 houses. I want to keep these things in mind as we go around the chart where Libra shows up for you in your natal chart. You can always pull up your natal chart on astro.com if you have all your birth details. Where you see Libra in your chart is where you have this type of energy that we've been talking about. And so these are the houses. This is the first house. The first house is the place of action in our identities. It's the framework of who we are, our outlook on the world, and how we naturally demonstrate our identities. And, you know, it also represents our appearance, our disposition, manner, our body's constitution, our natural forms of initiative, leadership, and how we naturally express ourselves. Libra rising, you know, sees the world through the we with a sense of like, how can we together make this world more fair and more just? Libra here is objective, but only because it's kind of indecisive in choosing a path. It's always thinking about the other person. If that other person, you know, has a need, the Libra rising may potentially choose to prioritize that need over their own. Libra here is that nice person, not necessarily always smiles, but won't say anything to rock the boat, just will kind of cut you off rather than have the difficult conversation because it doesn't want to be the antagonist in anyone's story. More than the Libra sun, the Libra rising desires partnership and feels kind of directionless when without a companion, for they feel like they can't take on the world or life alone, and they strive for balance between the I am and the we for a lifetime. Libra finds and learns and hopefully learns to exercise its will through partnership experiences. The Libra rising also sees the world as a place to make more beautiful. This is a sign that makes the glasses rose tinted. This is the placement that makes the glasses rose tinted. Second house, this is the house of material security. It's how we all feel secure and stable while being in these physical bodies, living on planet Earth in this lifetime. You know, it's the tangible things that matter with this house that help us to feel secure, our resources, money, possessions, the things that we own and value, can be intangible values as well, our spending and earning capacities, and our desire to control the things and the people within our reach, because if we can control them, then that helps us feel secure, so we think. It's also, though, your giftedness and how can you draw from your own innate personality and skills to create the things that help you feel materially secure. So I'm also going to talk about what's on the rising as we go around, because that gives context. The rising really colors the whole wheel. So here we have Virgo rising, and with Virgo rising, that's the sign of check boxes and tidiness. And Libra here is naturally inclined to be fastidious with money, probably a little withholding about the state of monetary affairs, like on a personal level. You might not know how much money Libra has in the bank. I can even see as the money accumulates, it always feels a little bit like it's not enough. I could see this person also diversifying its portfolio, that feeling secure, like by going into art collecting. Libra here really values aesthetics, beauty, wants to be surrounded by it. If this person budgets, you better believe that spreadsheet's going to be gorgeous. Third house, this house is all about how we think based on the people we associated with in our early environment. In this house is how our assumptions and our perceptions of the world were first created, and how we exchanged and assimilated information in that early environment. It's not so much whether or not someone's intelligent, everybody's brilliant. It's more about how you formed your unique intelligence. This house also signifies your early education, your early learning environment, siblings, your attitudes towards them, short journeys, trips, memory, perception, speech, how you express yourself through writing, speaking, other forms of communication, and your taken for granted skills, because we often take for granted the things that are closest to us. Leo's on the rising, Libra's on the third. And I gotta say, when I first thought about this energy, it kind of irritated me to think about being in a conversation with a person who wants to give the microphone to every side. Yes, Libra on the third, you can see both sides, but when you're actually talking to people, remember that they want to be validated just for a moment. Libra on the third has very clear ideas of its opinions. It's pretty unwavering. It would take a great deal of that Libra to hear other people's perspectives to change its mind. Libra on the fourth, this is the fourth house. This house is all about home and domestic affairs, both the childhood homes we grew up in and the types of home environment we're likely to create as adults. It's our family, our upbringing, our needs for privacy and peace, real estate, ancestry, lineage, and the subconscious programming that we learn from our families. How do we feel about what we experienced in our families, and what action do we take to perpetuate or release ourselves from those records? Cancer rising here, the sign of home, protection, and nurturing. So Libra on the fourth, this person might move around a few times. This is when the search for home is external. They think they'll find it in a new location, a new environment, but home is, and that's part of the Cancer path, like home is only within. There's a strong loyalty, connection, obligation to mother energy here, regardless of if the relationship was perceived as good or bad. You just got to learn to cut the cord. It doesn't mean cut the mother out of your life, rather like not feed the relationship so much energy. It's not really this obvious, like, what would my mother do? And let me follow those footsteps or be deliberate about going down another path. Like, it's really the subconscious energy here. You want to break away, but there's just something that keeps you connected. It's that first we between the Libra and the mother, maybe the energy eases up a bit when Libra has found a new person to be the we with. There are definitely lessons around cutting the cord and learning to nurture yourself. Find your home within with Libra on the fourth. Fifth house, this is the house of creativity. Another way to think of this house is, what do you do to leave your mark on the world? It's your, I was here and here's proof of my existence. It's your self-expression and things that bear your name and your personal stamp. For some, that's children. For others, like Ava DuVernay, that's her films. It also represents love affairs, play, recreation, theater, drama, amusement. And in some ways, there's this underlying quality about our self-worth with this house, because we tend to, associate worth with what we can do, what we can make, what we can create. It's also the house of hidden karma, because what you put out will likely return to you through that which you create. Gemini's on the rising. People feed this person's creative expression. I see like a calculated play with little commitment. This person creates a lot in the mind, but may not release it from the body, because putting it out into the world means you're tied to it. Gemini's mental energy, which is on the rising, in some form or another, like Gemini can be fatalistic in its thinking. Gemini can think of all sorts of scenarios. In every choice, they all end badly, which is just not actually what happens in life. So with wavering Gemini on the fifth, of self-expression. You know, this person might enter creative expression thinking it's going to backfire. So as an alternative, you know, may have a fear of commitment, though they might have many prospects. We're talking about love affairs to have fun with. It's careful play. Now, if the play and love affairs leads to children, I think the scale will find some steadiness, you know, enjoy the experience or run. This person kind of develops faith. You know, this energy kind of helps me understand why people run and aren't there when they have babies. In their minds, all they kind of see is the bad outcome, but raising children requires a lot of faith. And the Gemini on the rising, Libra on the fifth, has to learn to let go, to let God, to let allow. Sixth house, this is the house of health, self-care, our capacity to handle the mundane day-to-day work. How do we adjust, resist, or become overwhelmed by the demands of daily life? Everything in this house is under your control. It's your work, your health, your food, your clothing, your comforts, pets, your employer, your employees, your dependents, your working conditions. What happens here basically determines how and if we are able to be of service to others from a place of fullness and not emptiness. Everything in this house contributes to how our capacity to work, to serve, and to be healthy. Taurus is on the rising. I see the love of sweets, wine, alcohol being a bigger concern here than in other placements. Taurus loves comfort food, loves to lounge, and Libra, being ruled by Venus, already has a sweet tooth. Stressful days can end in their favorite binge indulgence or vice. Handling the day-to-day takes teamwork here. Libra likes to be more productive and enjoys its work when there's other people in it with them. Social kinds of work that allow the Libra to add its fairy dust, stylist, decorating, makeup, luxury retail. Libra here is also on the lookout for helping people around them that are being treated unfairly. Just remember that this is also the house of capacity. So where you're fighting for justice, you need to honor your needs for rest and replenishment. Seventh house, this house is all about how we behave in one-to-one relationships. It's our closest relationships, those with spouses and business partners and known enemies. It's our marriages, our partnerships, other close relationships that are not family unless you also work with them, not friends or acquaintances unless you also work with them or are intimate with them. This house represents our cooperation with others who are close to us or that lack of cooperation. It's our we consciousness as opposed to I am of consciousness of the first house. You are in partnership in this house. It rules the lower courts. Like, think about small claims courts you're suing or being sued by someone who's close to you. This house is all about how you learn about yourself through your closest relationships. Aries is on the rising. This is the natural home of Libra. Libra in love, Libra in partnership, intimate and in business. Libra wants to share life with someone here and in some ways sees itself as an ideal partner. Whatever sign is on the ascendant, you know, while it is your outlook on the world and how people view you, it can be a place where you don't necessarily see yourself so clearly. So Aries on the rising is dominating. Yeah, Libra is learning balance between identity, selfhood, cooperation, and the we. And one of the hiccups for Libra when it comes into partnership and cooperation is, well, it's big on fairness, and Libra has to understand that not everyone operates under the same rules and agreements, and it can be hard for that Aries rising to see that it is more dominating in the relationship than it actually is. Remember that personal integrity is up to the individual. Everyone has their own systems and set of rules that they're living by. Eighth house. This house is how people save themselves. Think about the Christian expression, Jesus saves, but here you save yourself. It's the house where people seek inner stability, emotional and soul security by spiritual, magical, or material means. So some people turn to religion, some people turn to sex, some people turn to the occult, some people turn to money in the form of joint finances, loans, or inheritances. Where do you turn when you need to feel emotionally and spiritually secure? And also that place where you feel like you're setting yourself up for the afterlife. That's oh, I'm good. It's the house of our deeply felt personal experiences, our initiations, our rebirths, our inner deaths, because when you realize that the means you've been turning to this whole time to feel emotionally secure aren't serving you or aren't working for you, and you have to die to that old self to be reborn. Pisces is on the rising. I see this placement as the scales, in the shape of that seesaw, Libra operating from one extreme place. There's this implication of obligation to others in this house, obligated to other people's beliefs. The Libra sun here has to transform, like lift itself from underneath the weight of subscribing to other people's beliefs and ideologies, because it feels safer to do so than to stand on your own. The lifting is the transformation, balancing the weight that's on those scales. Like Libra, you can't save yourself by dissolving into another. Ninth house, this is how we choose to learn about ourselves. Let me take a sip of water. It's the superconscious mind and education we choose. It's going beyond our horizons for self-discovery and identification. Moving from the 8th house of regeneration, death, rebirth, this is the house where we say, okay, I'm reborn now. What does this new me have to do? You need to learn about this new self, this new identity. So this house is associated with our religious and philosophical attitudes, foreign travel, long journeys, educational experiences that you choose, like higher education, apprenticeships, intuition, spiritual visions, and publication is also ruled here. It's the house of self-understanding and those experiences that really take you outside of what you think you know about you. Aquarius is on the rising here. Libra here, makes an excellent student and teacher. I feel like Libra here learns about itself through like undergoing its own makeover, even to the degree of like choosing new kinds of attire, trying on a different costume, see if it fits their new identity. Because beauty and aesthetics is so important to Libra. So post the transformation and the rebirth, it's undergone in the 9th, in the 8th. It has to try on a new identity. So you just emerge out of this like storm in the 8th, and here the Libra wants to make sure their outer appearance really matches that of the souls. Pursuing art would also be a good way for the Libra here to learn about self. So much of the Libra emotional attunement comes out in artistic expression. They like feel in and through the work, through doing that work. Tenth house, this is all about what you do in the world. It's your house of career and vocation. It's the work you get paid to do, the work that you say when you introduce yourself, at a networking event. Hey, I'm Selima, I'm an herbalist, astrologer, a spiritual teacher. You're like, how do you fill in those blanks? The 10th house is your reputation. It's your position in the world. Like, how does the public view you? And it's your calling to contribute to society, because it is so forward facing. It's the house of approval and whose approval you seek. Capricorn is on the rising. Libras, make good diplomats, attorneys, judges, business people, and career, just like career and vocational paths that deal with the public. They know how to talk to people to get them to come to agreement and to find solutions. Think of the professions that really tip the scales and provide solutions that are more equitable. Libra here likes to operate under a set of rules, to know the rules. That's why Libra can here work in law. The rules are clear, and to this person, like, they can interpret the law toward bending it toward a just resolution. When Capricorn rising is unevolved, reputation, power, the person's materially driven, and that's when the Libra here kind of rules with an iron fist and control. Isn't our president a Capricorn rising? I have that wrong. Or is he a Leo rising? Anyway, the 11th house. This house is all about who we are in group settings. Do we feel secure and stable when we're around friends, acquaintances, or in group settings? Are we only secure when we're around like-minded people? It's the house of how we learn about who we are when we're in the us collective situation. It's associated with our group involvement, friendships, our social relationships, creative group expression, and humanitarian ideals and like global awareness. It's our hopes and wishes and projects and ambitions for the collective, and where we feel like we're most self-satisfied, because it's kind of like that save the world energy, where like we all innately want to do something good that will change the world. Sag is on the rising. It's a friendly placement. Libra has a big social network, likely with people from many different walks of life, given the Sag, the adventure-loving, freedom-seeking energy on the rising. Libra has the gift and contribution to the collective to bring in different perspectives that make the collective like think more broadly, and define fairness more broadly. can be a nervous placement as well. Libra hates to disappoint, loves to be liked. So group situations can cause some anxiety. It wants to say the things that everyone will agree with. They can take disagreement or even, just someone not liking them because the vibe isn't there, pretty personally. Libra here doesn't understand why. Why would someone not like me? And this is the 12th house. This house is all about what lies in our subconscious that needs to be awakened so we can journey on to the next life, the next soul cycle in our evolution. I always like to visualize a body of water, and there's a ripple on the surface of the water, but you don't know where it's coming from. It's that unknown source. And this is the house of that unknown source. It's the things that are really ingrained in us. We barely notice they're unfolding, but they show up in bothersome ways through our habits, calling for our attention. Just because it's underneath the surface doesn't mean it's unreachable. Astrology gives us a lot of insight into what that is lying under the surface is. This house is affiliated with the subconscious mind, our spirituality and psychic abilities. You can't reach what's the source of that ripple through a logical way. It is a very intuitive and psychic kind of way of being able to understand what's there. It's our unconscious habits, our confinement, hospitals, prisons, and our self-undoing. It's influences that are not necessarily under our control yet. But they do require our transcendence if we want that. If we want peace. Scorpio is on the rising, the stormiest of all the signs is Scorpio. Scorpio, it's always operating like it's on a battlefield. Scorpio stays ready for the war, and with Libra on the 12th, the battleground is relationships. That's the place of self-undoing, because Scorpio is really oriented, especially when the person is expressing the lower Scorpion energy of the sign in a way, which is the Scorpion, in a way it believes that everyone is out to get them. Every encounter is going to take them out. Like Scorpios stay ready for death, and in some cases would sooner kill themselves than be killed. Some, when evolved, they more easily accept the call for transformation though. And so Libra's undoing here in relationships is like not allowing itself to be open and to be vulnerable and to realize that relationships are not a battleground. How to use Libra energy for good? How do you make the world more just and fair? By making. Libra has so much creative potential, and sometimes it doesn't see where it could go, like how it's going to make an impact, how it's going to help another. But art really has that beautiful ability to tip the scales when we're thinking about fair and justice. It is a personal thing, but it's also you want to bring that to the world. And art has the power to do that. Like the art that's going to come out of us during this time, 2020, is really going to be incredible. So maybe think to themselves, like, and even on personal levels, what the Libras create can help people personally think to themselves, like, oh, I can do that too. And that's tipping the scales for someone. Libra wants to do good, is more thoughtful about the wrongs it commits on others, even when they're unintentionally, then it shows. Like Libra actually is very thoughtful. I think it would be helpful for Libra to show more of its vulnerability and humanity, and trying to be all things to all people, or to be nothing. It comes across as detached, can leave people wondering, like, do you really get me? Get what I'm saying? It's like Libra can sprinkle fairy dust and leave everything and everyone it touches, and it comes in contact with better. But that's really when Libra has clarity. Like it's not so wobbly, it's not so indecisive, but really clear on who it is. Medical astrology, here's what it looks like physically when Libra's out of balance. In medical astrology, all the signs have different rulerships over different body parts, and the planets, we're not going into detail here, they rule the physiology and the pathology. The planets all alter the functions of those body parts and body systems in different ways. But we're just going to talk about the sign and some of the common physical ailments that can be present for Libra. The fears and anxieties that arise when Libra is like just kind of paralyzed by indecision or people pleasing rest in the kidneys and can throw the entire system off balance. The kidneys are our filtration system, filtering out impurities and toxins. The kidneys know what should remain in the body and what should be eliminated in order to maintain pH balance, hormonal balance, fertility. And the path of the Libra is reflective of what's happening. Everything can't stay. Everyone can't be pleased. Libra rules the kidneys, the inslets of Langerhans, and the pancreas. That's our secretes insulin and glucagon. Supraneals, the lumbar region of the spine, the vasomotor system, and the skin. Libra imbalances can manifest as polyuria or suppression of the urine, inflammation of the ureters, which connect the kidneys with the bladder, Bright's disease, lumbago, eczema, and other skin diseases. Again, think about kidneys and their filtration. If they're not filtering properly, toxins are returning back into the bloodstream, and that's what's creating the skin issues. Kidney problems, kidney infections, kidney stones, poor kidney function can lead to eye problems. Headaches, skin eruptions, hypoglycemia, venereal diseases, iron deficiency, anemia. Self-care, what balances Libra energy? Harmony in the home, fresh air, mild physical exercise, well-balanced mind. That's like for everybody. Not being too indulgent in any area. You know, with the scales drops to one side, and then it's really hard to bring that level of imbalance and extremes. When we're operating in extremes, it's hard to bring it lifted back up to the center. Skin ailments are common, so makeup should be avoided. Drinking lots of water rules the kidneys. Grounding activities, spending time in nature, and like practice making small decisions for yourself, not because someone else suggested it, and really just seeing your small choices and your small decisions through. I can see a couple of Libra folks around, and their projects get delayed again and again and again because they put everyone else's projects on the front burner and get priority. And I think that diminishes confidence and trust in self, because you have so many ideas and you want to do them, but you see yourself again and again not doing them because of somebody else's priorities. And then, so I think we have to start small again. We have to reprogram the self and start small and start rebuilding that self-trust by making small decisions and just following through on the small ones. And then making things more beautiful. Libra hates ugliness, unless the scale is like totally in the opposite direction. It can manifest as not caring about beauty at all. When you think about where Libra is in your chart, you can ask yourself, where do I most need to strive for balance? Where do I need to honor my urge to create in order to understand how I feel and connect with how others feel? And where can I drop the tit for tat? Infusion blends. This is like kidney, blood supportive and adaptogenic if you use the holy basil. So nettle leaf is a kidney ally, and it's very nutrient rich. You might as well think of it as a multivitamin plant. It borders that line between like herbal medicine and food. Moringa does that too. Nettle is brilliant for the kidneys. Hibiscus is brilliant for the blood. And then, so holy basil, if you want it to be more adaptogenic, you know, kidneys, like Libra also rules our adrenals. And when we are in chronic levels of exhaustion, we need long-term support. This blend will help with that. Holy basil will help with that. But then if you wanted peppermint, they're all in mint family. But if you just wanted something more refreshing or more accessible, peppermint, spearmint, refreshing, mentally enlivening, and use your intuition in creating the blend. Most of these, I keep them small because don't know if people are on medications, and there's lots of contraindications with plants. And so I choose plants that are generally safe for most people and aren't going to contraindicate too much with medications. But use your intuition with this blend in terms of the proportions.